according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Now on that same day, when Jesus had appeared to Mary Magdalene, 2 disciples were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them. But their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him." Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
You may be seated. I just want to take a second here and paint a picture for a minute. We are still on Easter Day in the gospel story. Same place we were last week, just a different story. So although time has passed for us since Easter, we have to go back to Easter Day and to help us imagine what is going on in the Emmaus story that we read. 2 followers of Jesus who have been journeying along with him, listening to his lessons and devoting their lives to his work, have left Jerusalem and are now headed to Emmaus. They are devastated. Jesus is dead, at least to them, and they are grieving. They heard the message from the women who went to the tomb, but they don't believe what they were being told about Jesus being resurrected. In their grief, they probably have a million different things running through their minds. What now? Who will save us? How did we let Jesus be crucified? Could I have done more? No. I blame the Roman leaders. They should have let him go. They were reflecting on all the things that had happened that day, probably going over it play by play. Then Jesus shows up and asks them what they are talking about. And I imagine in what might be a little bit of a snotty attitude, they say, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place in these days?" Almost as if they are saying, "Well, you don't know what's going on. I don't have time to explain it to you. I'm too sad." Then this stranger, who we know to be Jesus, sticks around and walks with them their entire 7-mile journey, talking probably the whole way about the scripture stories about himself, beginning with Moses. Stories that, by the way, these followers would have known pretty well already. Finally, they arrive at their destination, and it's as if Jesus is so engrossed in his conversation that he acts as if he will keep going. The scripture says he walked ahead as if he were going on. It makes me wonder if Jesus was waiting for an offer of hospitality, and then he gets the offer to stay. They arrived where they were going, and it was late. They probably think this stranger shouldn't be walking alone in the dark. Traveling in those times was dangerous enough, let alone doing it by yourself in the dark. Then they share a meal together, and although Jesus is the guest in this case, he breaks the bread and offers it to them as if he were the host. In this moment of familiarity with the Last Supper, they recognize Jesus, and then he vanishes. Wow. Take a moment and let it sink in. I am captivated by how Jesus shows up and accompanies us along the way. Many scholars know that the second follower isn't named, maybe under the idea that it's any one of us. Think about that. If you were on that journey along with Jesus on that road to Emmaus, we are on this journey of life, and Jesus comes to meet us. In our grief, confusion, exhaustion, happiness, gratitude, pain, and our focus on what's ahead, no matter where we are or what we are going on in life, Jesus meets us there, in those feelings. I couldn't help but think about how I've been doing a lot of walking lately, holding a baby, trying to get her to sleep, back and forth, walking. In becoming a new mom and getting to know other moms, I have learned that parenthood can sometimes be a lonely journey. And the thing is, I'm not doing it all alone. Throughout this whole time, I keep giving thanks that Lynn and I have each other to journey through the highs and lows together. And I pray for all those single parents and stand in awe of them daily. But even when we feel alone, or like we are struggling to see where the journey is taking us, Jesus shows up. Jesus helps us remember his promise of breaking of bread and the pouring of wine, that he will always be with us. He brings us back to community, pointing us to Holy Communion in the common union that we share with each other. Jesus is reminding us of our humanity and the ability to lean on one another in the good times and in the really hard times and in every time in between. We celebrate communion to help us remember this bond, the bond that we share with Jesus and the bond that we share with one another. Our sacraments of baptism and Holy Communion bond us together for life. We are not only connected to the people in this room, but to all of those who have gone before us and to all of those who will come. Our faith is stronger together in sharing common unity with one another. We come together connected to one another in our faith, in our belief of a God who loves us no matter what, and in the promise that we are not alone, no matter what has happened in our life journey. This is the hospitality of Jesus. This is the good news of the gospel. We are not alone. Jesus meets us wherever we are. Jesus is our host on the journey. We just have to stop and invite Jesus in. Life doesn't make room for Jesus. It is our job to make room in our lives for Jesus. When we come to church or community events and worship, we are making room for the movement of Christ among us. We are making room to pause and see God at work. When I say life doesn't make room for Jesus, I'm not saying that the only way to encounter Jesus is at church. What I'm saying, though, is that we often don't slow down enough or open our eyes to the new and different ways that God moves among us. So we are stuck in what just happened, or we're trying to get on to the next thing, or focus on the old way of doing things, that we don't see Christ who meets us in new and unexpected ways. When we slow down and break bread with one another, we can see the risen Christ journeying with us. As we remember that Jesus is always with us, even when we can't recognize him, may he never vanish from our sight entirely. So just as Jesus journeys with us, we journey with others who have never seen the face of Christ. As disciples, I ask all of us to help carry that face of Christ to those that don't know Jesus, bringing promise to a weary world. Amen.